Girl, stop playing.
Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Koereyelle, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You know that I believe that you can make the money and you can get the honey. You don't have to choose. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And today in the studio, you know I get to introduce y'all to a working woman, but before I do that, y'all gotta show the show some love. So make sure you like this episode, comment below, and subscribe to the channel so that you can tap in and tune into all of the amazing conversations and all of the great information that we share here on Girl Stop Playing. So today you get to meet Shaquanna Brooks, a.k.a. Miss Business. She is in the building to teach us how to not go to jail with these taxes, y'all, because there's a whole lot of schemes and scams out here in these streets, girl. We trying to stay out on the streets, okay?
Yes, I love it when people are always like, yeah, she's going to help us stay out of jail.
Please do, because some of these interviews, and I feel like I always have to give, this is the second episode that I've had with the CPA where we're talking about taxes, and I have just seen some of the craziest conversations in these internet streets, and I'm like, not up in here. What we not gonna do is have the people looking at your girl. So,
yes.
But before we get into that, I am intrigued by the fact that taxes, accounting, I'm like, I want to make the money. I don't want to know nothing else, like how we manage the money, none of that stuff. So when people are like passionate about this, I'm interested because it's like total opposite of me. But you actually started out pre-med. So I want to talk a little bit about that transition.
Oh, you did your research.
I did my research. Yes, I did. And I think it's such a common place for people to be like dead set on one thing or, you know, going down this track to the point where they're afraid to do something different. And not always because they're truly afraid. Sometimes it's like, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? Are people going to support it? So take us back to pre-med Miss Business.
Wow, I love that you like dug that up. No one has ever asked me about that before.
It's a first.
Yes, it is a first. Okay, so pre-med. So after high school, I had this thought in my mind that I was going to go off and do real estate. And yeah, that's all I was going to do. So market crashed, and at the time I was like 18, 19. I wanted to hang out. Everyone in my office was like taking things super serious. I said, you know what? I'm going back to school, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm 18, 19. I still get money from my parents, right? So it wasn't as serious. Yeah, I still had some time. So I went back to school, and I couldn't really figure out what exactly I wanted to do. But I took an anatomy class, and I fell in love with the idea of understanding what's happening with the body, different parts of the body. And so from
that's not a class where you were like dissecting things, is it?
You did dissect, but that's when you learn about every single part of the body, every bone, every muscle. And you had to, like, I had a quiz and I had to know, there's maybe, I can't remember now, but maybe 100, it's like 100 or 300 different parts of the body, but you had to know. Wow. And so I was just like, one, I'm a geek. I've always liked to study. That's just always been me. So I had to study. I was like getting in these groups, and we would have to study so hard. But I did so good, like 4.0 GPA. Okay. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go full throttle with this. So I'm a person, like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it at the highest level. So now I'm researching, you know, certain careers. So I'm like, you know what? Who makes the most? An anesthesiologist. So I said, you know what? I'm going to school to be an anesthesiologist. So I went through, did my entire associate's degree in pre-med, and then I was going to go off to finish, you know, my biology degree. But when I switched over and continued after I finished the associate degree part, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't really like this. I was like, because you know what it was? As it started getting harder and away from like parts of the body, I'm like doing physics and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I don't really like this. And I'm a person, I am not afraid to pivot. I will pivot 10 million times. I do not care.
Again, because people who've been doing something for 25 years because that's just what they've been doing.
I will cut it off. I will pivot quick. So I said, you know what? I don't want to do this. So what I did in the middle of the semester, I started picking my class for the next semester, and I switched my whole degree to finance. I've always loved business. So I said, you know what? At the time, again, very strategic with everything I do. So at the time, my school, of course, had a finance program, also an accounting program. But my best friend, she was already in working at one of the big 4 accounting firms. So she's like, I'm going to tell you everything that you need to do in order to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. But I always was intrigued with stocks. So I'm like, maybe I should do finance. But I said, you know what? Nope. My school has a better accounting program. I have the blueprint for my best friend. I'm going the accounting route.
Mm-hmm.
So I went the accounting route, and then that's how I got here.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
So I can just imagine, or I can guess, and you tell me, what were people's opinions when you said, because I feel like if I was like pre-med, like my mom would be so proud. She'd be telling other people, yo, my baby is about to be a doctor. And then if I'm like, yo, I'm going to be an accountant, she'd be like,
what are you doing, right?
So did you have to, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with being an accountant, but you know how mamas be. Like
they have
just
it in
want to
their
be able
mind.
to brag on their doctor child, right? So did you have to deal with any of that when you decided to make your pivot, or were your people just supportive?
Nope. My mom and dad, and I always say that every parent, so my dad, he's an entrepreneur. My mom, she worked as a correction officer. And I always have freedom to do whatever it is I want to do. And I think that has truly been a blessing. And so I always tell people that have children, the best thing that you can do is give your child the option. I never felt like I couldn't pivot because I always knew that my parents had me.
Yes.
So if I wanted to go from pre-med, I'm not like, oh my God, I need to finish because I have to make sure that my degree is finished at this age. I didn't have that pressure because I was just floating through life.
Yes.
I'm like, no, I don't want to do real estate.
Come on, black girls floating. I'm here for the soft life.
Yeah.
And if you did not get the soft life, it is your responsibility to give it to your children. Because I can't tell. Like even my mom talked about how she had to go to the military because my grandma wouldn't let her go to fashion school, and it's like you don't forget about this. Like you literally gave up on your dreams because your mama told you no. So that is such a thing. And I don't know of other communities, but specifically for for a lot of black parents, we don't afford our children the opportunity to figure it out. There's like a clip going around right now of some reality show where it's like one clip of the black girl who's talking to her mom, and her mom is like, no, you got to get a job right now. You got to be, you got to get serious. And then it flips to like a white boy, and his family is like, well, I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in college, and now I'm the president of so-and-so, and I've been in the Senate and it's like we put so much pressure on children. You're 18, 19. Like, how are you supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of forever?
No one questioned me. And I think back sometime, I'm like, oh my God, maybe I needed more structure. I don't know. It worked out.
I'm about to say it seemed like it worked out.
Yes. But I always say, like, no one was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing real estate one year, pre-med another year, accounting another year? And then with accounting, in order to become a CPA, you can't do 4 years of school. You have to do 5.
Okay.
Right? So now that was an additional year. But I never felt like I was behind. I never felt any pressure because I didn't have anyone saying, oh, like you need to make sure that you are done with this because you have to do this. No, like they brought me a car.
I love it.
They, like I didn't have a car note. I was still living at
breathe.
home.
And that's the other thing. So many of us are like trying to pay bills and do the things at such a young age that you don't have the time to just figure it out. Yeah. I love that.
So shout out to my parents because they did that.
So what is going to be do you have children?
I don't have children.
Not yet. Okay,
Not yet.
So what is going to be your philosophy on college? Because you had the privilege of having an entrepreneur parent. I feel like that is like golden.
It has been a game changer for me. Like I always feel like I have kind of like the blueprint. Like I had the cheat code.
I love it.
I had the cheat code.
So what will you, and I don't feel like anybody's necessarily pressuring their kid to go to college these days, maybe, but what will be your advice?
So for me, I would try to encourage my kids to go to college. Only I look at college as a networking tool. The CEOs, and not all entrepreneurs know, but you have a lot of great people that you meet in college. And I do feel like you meet people after school. But when I think about my life, I feel like all the people all my friends, all the people that has helped me has been from, elementary. That's why I'm like, oh no, when I get a kid, my kid I'm paying tuition. I want my kid to go to school with affluent, people, because your friends are your friends, right? So I really look at school as not really like an education thing. I look at it more so like a networking.
That is so true. And that, again, is something that it's true, but you kind of learn it on either the backside when it's too late, or you don't really think about that when you're doing it. Yeah. So even like the internship thing, I was an education major. I ain't do no internship, but the people who did internships and really made those connections, networked and learned about corporate culture without the pressure of, being in your career, those are the things that I feel like if you are going to suggest that your child goes to college, having those conversations, because it is your experience to learn who you are, to develop yourself, to get that first taste of freedom without the pressure of paying the bills and doing the things, and then meeting the people when everybody's broke, because it's so much pressure to have it all together after college, but ain't nobody got nothing.
And when you're in college, just like, let's have fun, let's go to school.
Yes. So I love it. And hopefully somebody out there who is either considering whether or not they want to go to college or having those conversations with their children now, it's like, in my opinion, go to college, but I ain't paying for it. I'm not paying.
You're not going to pay for your son to go to college?
No.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
You should be doing everything for him because he's so cute.
So smart. And mama is going to work these scholarships. You can go. I'm not saying he's going to pay. Absolutely not. Let me clear that up.
Okay.
He ain't getting no loans in your name. We're not doing that. But I had a full scholarship. I didn't have to pay a dime. You think my baby is No, but he going. If he chooses. But he going.
Okay.
He's going.
I think everything is so different now.
It is. And there's opportunities. There's funding. There's money out there. We just don't be knowing it's available or having access to it. Yeah. So what about somebody who is already an entrepreneur? They're already in business. Let's say they've been in business for 5 years, but they're not feeling it anymore. They are feeling unfulfilled and they don't have that Miss Business about them where they are just like willing to pivot. What's your advice for that person? Like, how do you know when it's time to pivot?
Okay, so there's a few times when you know it's time to pivot. The first time you know it's time to pivot is when you're not being fulfilled, right? So I always look at everything as I have one life, and that's my favorite line. I'm like, I have one life, I'm not dealing with this, right? It's a little dismissive sometimes, but
it's true.
It's so true. I have one life. Am I going to spend it unhappy? But again, you do have to make the correct decisions at the same time. So I think sometimes most people are failing because they don't have the right tools, they don't have the right resources, and they may not feel fulfilled because they're not succeeding. And sometimes that may happen. So I guess it depends on where the person is. If you're succeeding and your business is at its pinnacle, but you are like, I'm not fulfilled, then it may be time for you to pivot onto something else. And if you built one business, I believe if you give an entrepreneur, like if you're an entrepreneur at heart, if you built $1 million business, you could build another one, right? And faster. But if it's a situation where you're not fulfilled because you feel like what you're doing is not working, you may need to sit down and really analyze why it's not working. Because a lot of times in business, we as business owners don't realize that we're the problem. And we have too much ego to really admit that it's us and not really focus on, okay, these are my issues that I'm projecting on my business, right? So like for me, I learned that quick. Like I am very like, I don't want to deal with this. But I'm like, I can't do that all the time, right? So, and it's still an issue for me sometimes. But I know that's my issue, so I hire people. Listen,
look,
I hire.
You work through it.
You work through it. Because sometimes it's something that you don't want to change. You don't have to change everything. Sometimes I don't want to deal with certain things. So if I don't want to deal with it, that's fine. I'll just hire somebody
has to
deal with it. Yeah. Right. And so I'm consistently analyzing my business, analyzing my revenues, analyzing my expenses, analyzing my employees. And that's what's needed. And I do feel like in order for you to really succeed, especially as a small business, you have to be willing to consistently pivot. Pivot to stay current, pivot to add additional services or just perfect the services that you have, because those services that you started out with, you're gonna be looking back like, oh my God, people really gave me money for this, you know? So,
and knowing that what you start with is not what you have to stay with.
Yes.
Like you don't have to be a slave to this thing just because you built it. And a lot of times our ego gets caught up in it. Like we've branded ourselves as this thing, or people only know us for doing this thing. So we just get stuck even though we're unhappy. And I always say, like, you didn't quit that job to be a slave for yourself. Like you did not do that. Entrepreneurship is all about freedom. Like that is what we're doing this for. So if you are feeling like this is not for you, it don't have to be for you. You have the freedom to change it.
You have the freedom to change it.
And I love that you also mentioned, like, sometimes it's you, sis. Like,
Sometimes it's you.
It's not the strategy. It is you.
Sometimes it's you holding your own business back.
And you have to be willing to accept that. And we've had conversations about like the emotional things that we bring to our business, that, you know, your emotions, your mental, like all of the things when you are an entrepreneur, especially if you're a solopreneur, or even not, if you're leading a team, like if you don't consistently work on yourself, you can literally like sink the ship.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that people, a lot of times when they have a business, especially when they're trying to do everything themselves, like you are hurting your business. I tell everyone, as soon as I used to talk to clients and do onboardings in my business, and of course, onboardings is discussing pricing. As soon as I stopped discussing pricing and sending out invoices, my revenue increased. You know why? Because it wasn't necessarily that people were asking for discounts, but if somebody came to me and they're like, oh my God, I haven't filed my taxes in 3 years, and you know, I really need to file them, but oh my God, I know it's gonna be like so expensive, or I don't know, I know I'm gonna have to pay triple the amount. I'm like, girl, don't worry about it, because we'll work it out. Like, I'll just charge you for like 2 years, and then that's fine. My employees do not care. Like, the numbers are the numbers. You said 3 of that. Yes. You said 2 of that. Okay, because
they don't have that emotional. I mean, it's like when you work at a job. These people money. Like, I'm gonna collect what
they don't care. And if you're not happy and you want to walk away, they're like, I've done what I was supposed to do, so I understand.
Yes.
You know. So I do feel like a lot of times we have no choice, of course, when we're starting out, to be that person that's in the business, but I'm stressed out all the time because I'm like, oh my God, I have to pivot. Oh my God, I have to add this new person. Oh my God, I have to, you know, hire this person. I have to look for this contractor. Okay, are we expanding in this particular department, and do I need to bring someone else in? But if you have a mindset where you're like, oh, I want a business, I want to set it and forget it, you're going to be going nowhere fast.
Yeah, the set it and forget it. So I think one of the biggest challenges in entrepreneurship is going from solopreneur to like leading a team.
It's hard.
Primarily because what I think is like the hard part is delegating. It's like when you're so used to doing the things the way that you are used to doing them, how do you trust someone to come in and do the things the way that you've been doing them? So what is your advice for someone who's struggling with delegation?
You need to create processes because a lot of times,
Connie
S. Forbes. That's my girl. She helped me with she helped me with my system. So, one thing that people, what I always say to somebody, if they're like, this person isn't getting it, or this person is doing it wrong, it's like, it's your fault. You didn't explain it to them. Because if you give someone direction, you can't say that they're not getting it unless you said to them, do A, B, 1, 2, 3, and then they did A, Z, P, H, I. But if you never gave someone direction, then it's your fault because it's your business. It's what you want them to do. And so a lot of times, most people, we hold on to that where it's like, I want to do it how I want to do it, and no one's going to be able to do it how I do it. If it's a personality thing, you can go through that, right? Like I know, for instance, in my business, I know that I can close my team. I have a very high close rate in terms of when people come into my firm. We're probably at like 80%. I know that if I was there, it'll probably be like 95%, but I'm willing to let that additional, percentage go because I can't be in my business in order for it to grow. But a lot of times, if I say to my team, this is how I want you to onboard, these are the systems, this is what I want you to do, this is how I want you to do it, they're going to do it. And if they don't do it and I've documented what they need to do, I can then go back and reassess where they went wrong. But if I'm just like, here, girl, pick up the phone, do this onboarding.
Get it how you live, do it how you do it.
Do it how you, they're going to do whatever it is that they want to do. And whose fault is that? That's your fault. That is your fault. It's not their fault. So I definitely think that people have to focus more so on their processes. And I always tell people from the beginning, even when it's just you, document what you want, document how you want things done. Because like for me, I've just spent 2 years ago, I sat down documenting my processes. Literally, tax season was over in April. From April all the way until now, I'm redocumenting my processes. I'm not playing with my processes because I can't play with them, because in order for me to get out my business, and most people aren't looking at it like that, in order for me to get out my business, I need to be able to come back to you and say, you didn't do this. And I'm very big on that. I'm like, if I didn't tell you, it's not your fault.
I can't assume that you're just going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because most people who have that figure outness about them, like they have their own business. They're out here operating their own thing.
That's the thing. It's like if you wanted someone that was going to leave the business, then
they got their own business.
They're not an employee.
Yeah.
They have their own business. And so you have to document. I mean, you have to document things so that way people have like a blueprint to go by.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Hard pill to swallow. It's you, sis. This whole interview is you, sis. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Okay, yes. So when we were talking about your pivot, you mentioned like a CPA. You can't just go to school for 4. You got to go to school for 5. So I want to talk about the difference between a CPA and an accountant. Because as entrepreneurs, I feel like it's, we know we need somebody to keep these books. We know we got to have somebody file the taxes. But who's the right person to be able to do that? So what's the difference?
Perfect. So a CPA, it's a certified public accountant, because people will butcher CPA. I done heard
all the things.
Yeah, I done heard
the C's and the P's.
Some crazy words and terms. But it's a certified public accountant, and pretty much the requirements to become a CPA, it's 150 credits, so about 5 years of school. So I have a dual bachelor's degree, or I could have, my school was hating on me. I was trying to get my master's, but I already had a job offer, so I was like, give me that other bachelor's degree. I'm not giving you guys another semester, right? But they don't care how you get the 150, whether it's through a master's program, but you just need the 150 credits. You do have to take an exam, it consists of 4 parts. I took the exam a really long time ago, so I know they've made some changes, so I don't know how many parts there are now. But when I've
heard about this exam.
It's the hardest exam after the bar, right? So it's a very, very, very difficult exam. I spent a very long time studying for this exam because you have to take the exam in parts, and you cannot take them within certain windows. And so it literally took me like 1.5 years to pass this exam. So that meant like 1.5 years of consistency, 1.5 years of failing some parts and then retaking it, trying to work and take the exam at the same time. Like I literally had to take sabbaticals from work during the summer in order to pass, where I would do nothing but focus. Now, ideally, most people always ask me the question, like, what's the difference between a CPA and an accountant? Do I need a CPA? What's the difference? The difference is that when you have someone that's like, okay, I'm going to be an accountant, I'm going to keep your books, I may just do your taxes, there's no real certification behind that, right? So
anybody can be an accountant? Or do you have to have at least an accounting degree?
No. I could teach you how to do bookkeeping today.
No, not me, girl. No, you can't. Not me, but somebody. Okay.
Yes. I could, so with an accounting and, tax preparers, you don't need any particular certifications. So for me, I have certain continuing education that I have to take. I have to take ethics training to keep up the credentials. So ethics training, I have to take continuing education. So I have to be on top of what's happening in tax law, what's happening in accounting, from just being in compliance, right? And I can't do anything because I don't want to jeopardize my license, right? So I'm licensed and accounting.
So you have something holding you accountable.
I have something holding me accountable.
So the people who are out here playing in these streets,
there's a lot of people playing in these streets.
CPAs.
They're not CPAs, but you guys should stop letting them play in your business.
Listen, the stories. I mean, this conversation, I really hope, I know about speaking things into existence, and I really hope me having all these conversations is not going to get me.
No. It's going to help. It's going to help because we're here to help.
Please.
Right? So one thing I do want to point out a lot of times and why people really need to be careful is because the IRS does not care. You can never call the IRS and say, Tanya did my taxes. I didn't know. Not knowing is not an excuse for the IRS.
How is that fair, IRS? How is that fair?
The IRS, because it's your responsibility. So from the IRS perspective, yeah, because you'll hear stories that say,
my CPA told me my accountant told me the XYZ.
Told me they filed my taxes. You don't understand the people this person told me they filed my taxes. They haven't filed my taxes in 4 years.
Why would somebody do that? I keep asking this question. I have not gotten a straight answer yet. Why would someone do that?
It may have been, consistently, it couldn't have been an oversight. They could have just been bad. I don't know. I don't understand it because, again, I have processes. Right? Yeah, I have processes. I don't know, right? Sometimes people, they steal. And that's another thing, too, right? you have someone with your money, like your money is so important. You have to make sure that you are hiring people, because I hear stories where they're like, oh, my accountant took $500,000 from me, $250,000 from me. And again, that's why I always tell people you have to be educated, because how does somebody take all this money from you? But again, it's because if you don't understand it, you're looking for someone, again, not having processes. You're looking for someone to come in and say, I'm going to handle it. I'm going to do it. No. That's why, like, when I go through things with my clients, it's like, no, let's go through this line by line. I need you to understand exactly what's happening. I don't care if you want to do it, if you don't want to understand it, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. If you don't have time, you're going to find time, right? Because it's so important. And I always tell people, I can't help you if you can't, like, only way I can help you is if you can help me help you. Yeah. Right? So I definitely think that in terms of how it happens, some people are just, scammers. Some people just want money and they're not doing anything. But you have to be careful. And the thing, some things that people can ask for to make sure, one, the reason why the IRS is saying that it's your responsibility is because you signed the taxes. So if you signed off on the taxes, what you're signing off to say is that you agree with what this person has submitted to them. So you can't go back and say, oh, well, I don't know. They just did it.
Because you didn't actually read it.
Because you didn't actually read it. You just signed it, right? And again, we all know you're supposed to read things before you sign it, right? But most people don't understand tax returns. So even if you gave somebody a tax return, they don't understand it. And so that's why, like, I like to go through tax returns line by line with clients, because it's like, no, this is what's happening. That's why, this is why this is happening. Even if you're getting a refund, why are you getting a refund? That meant the IRS had too much of your money. Why are you getting a refund? Let's talk about it. And so I just think that people have to be more on top of their finances and have people be able to talk to them. I'm not saying understand everything. I don't expect my clients to understand the tax code, but you need to understand what's happening and why and how it affects you. So you just have to hire people that
hire the right people.
You have to hire the right people
and pray about it. Okay. So let's talk about this tax code. Is it the same thing? Tax law.
Yeah. The tax code
I'm not the right one. Don't trade me, girl.
Yeah. The tax code is pretty much like
is that what spells out like deductions, all of the things. So deductions, in my opinion, and my opinion ain't worth much, but in my opinion, that's one of the biggest benefits of being a business owner, is that we not take advantage, but we have. I guess that's an advantage of being a business owner, is, the
being able to write. So
help me.
To make it simple, I always say that being an employee, you get your money, your tax, and then you get to spend what's left. Right? But when you are an entrepreneur, you get your money, you get to spend it, and then you get taxed on what's left. Right? And so it's just it's a flip, but it's major, right? Because they're telling you already, I'm taking 30% out your check, I'm taking 40% out your check, and then you have to live on what's left. As an entrepreneur, you have the power of saying, these are all of my expenses. I'm going to pay my expenses. You know what? What personal expenses that I'm already utilizing for business, like your vehicle, your phone, all these things, what are things that I'm already paying for on my personal side that I can now make a business expense, and now I can write that off. So now what that's doing is that's decreasing your profit, which is in turn reducing the amount of taxes that you're going to pay, right? So that was a summary to sum up what you were saying.
Choppy. It was real choppy what I was trying to ask.
I got you together. But
so what? Some of the ones that you named, like the vehicle, the phone, the home office, like those are ones that I feel like we often talk about. What are some that are maybe like not as known that we could be taking advantage of?
Absolutely. So one that is not talked about a lot is just like an IRA or like a retirement contribution and being able to match that, right? So I talk about that a lot now because I talk about it a lot with my clients, but now I'm going to become more vocal about it because I'm like, why isn't everyone doing this? If you have a business, you can open up a retirement account for the business. If you are an employee of the business, you can now contribute to your retirement account and match it. So once you match it, that's now an expense for the business and now an investment into your retirement and a tax deduction and a tax credit, right? So people aren't thinking about these things, and so we have to. Some other ones that people don't talk about a lot. Let's see.
What about me getting my makeup done for these podcast episodes?
It's a little shaky because the IRS is very delayed.
I need my makeup done for these podcast episodes.
You do need your makeup done, but yes, because this is more media, right? So yes, you like, can I? Yeah, right? Because it's more media, right? That's like if someone, let's say Beyonce or people that are on set, you need these, these things done. So yes, because it's more media. But some people who are like, they're in real estate and they're like, I need my makeup in order to show a house. You don't.
You don't. Yeah,
you don't, right?
Yeah.
You don't need it. And so it really is about what you can justify. And I always tell people, if you're sitting down across from an IRS agent, can you confidently say to them, I needed my makeup done. Right? And mind you, they probably sitting there barefaced looking at you with attitude.
No, you did
like
not.
You did, right? And so that's like relative depending on the industry.
Okay, so that was one of my questions is like, are taxes treated different depending on the industry? And it's not that they're treated different, it's just that the deductions might be different because of what's actually necessary.
Yes, because in order to write off something or consider something an expense, it has to be ordinary and necessary. That's the definition by the IRS. So if it's ordinary, meaning it's something common in your industry, then you can write it off. If it's something that you are, it's necessary in order for you to do, then, you can, write it off.
So which ones will land us in jail?
Ignoring the IRS. Right? So what people don't understand is that before the IRS comes for you, right? So there's a few things, right? One, taking deductions that you are not allowed. So let's say, and it really, I just want to say, really, let's back up, right? Because I don't want people thinking because they get audited or because they write one line item off, they're going to jail. That is not true. People go to jail for tax evasion, okay? So there's a big difference between tax evasion and tax avoidance, okay?
What is the difference?
Okay, tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is legal, okay? So tax avoidance means that you're going to do some tax planning strategies. You're going to implement the tax code. And I want people to understand that the tax code literally is like maybe like 1% telling you that you need to pay taxes, and the other 99% of the tax code is telling you how not to pay taxes, right? So you utilizing those other 99% of the tax code to then reduce your tax liability, that is totally legal because all wealthy people are doing it, and now you will be doing it as well, right? So that is legal. But straight saying, I didn't make any money, not filing taxes, let's say filing taxes with high tax liabilities, never paying them. So I have some people that come to me and they're like, oh my God, I owe the IRS like $150,000. They keep sending me letters. I'm like, you need to respond to them. And people don't understand. The IRS is going to give you different options.
So it's not like the regular bill collector that you could just like hang up on. Don't do that.
The IRS coming for you. They will freeze your accounts. They will garnish your check. They're going to get their money. Right? They are going to get their money. But what people don't understand, and everyone's so scared of the IRS, who you should be scared of is the state. States don't play, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Oof. But the IRS, if you owe them or they're reaching out to you, you have to communicate with them. You have to let them know.
What do you say? I ain't got it. What do you say? What do you say?
You have to let them know. Okay, so it depends. If, let's say you get a notice from, let's use a scenario, right? Because
Don't use me in a scenario.
I'm not going to use you. All right, so let's use an example of an Uber driver because I get this all the time.
Okay.
Uber drivers, they were receiving 1099s, but they never filed their taxes. The IRS is going to sit back and they're going to say, okay, you never filed that 1099. But we have it on file that you made that money.
From Uber, because Uber filed it.
Because Uber filed it with them. So what they're going to do is they're going to wait a few years.
See, that's the point.
They're going to wait because they want that interest. They want the interest and the penalties and all those things, right? So once they catch up to you and they say, they're going to send you a letter that's going to say, well, based on this 1099 of $100,000, you owe us $30,000, right? People usually like freak out. They're like, oh my God, the IRS said I owe them $30,000. I'm like, the IRS knows that you made money and they're not going to tell you that you can write expenses off against this, right? So every time, like if you're receiving certain letters, you should have a CPA or a professional tax preparer that really understands business to help you read through what that letter is saying. So the IRS is not going to say, hey, we know you made $100,000, but you are able to write off expenses against that $100,000 to reduce your tax liability. No, they're going to say...
They want as much of that money as they can get.
Yeah, they're going to say, this is the income. So you owe us taxes based on that income. So whenever clients call me, I always feel like a superhero when they call me. They're like,
I know
panic.
you like
I'm
that
like,
low real quick.
I'm like, don't worry about it. We have, we're able to write things off against it. And then the tax liability goes, is significantly lower. However, if let's say you get that letter and you never
Not
respond
me. Don't
to
say
it.
I got the letter. Somebody, the Uber driver.
If the Uber driver got the letter and they never responded, then it becomes an issue because now it's interest and it's penalties. Now your bank account is going to be seized and all these different things when you could have just filed a tax return. Or, so it really is just about communication. And honestly, if you call them, you can get in a payment plan. If let's say you were making a certain amount of money at one point, but now you're not, they have programs. So like they have offering compromise situations. They have like payoff, like lump sum payoff situations. And so there's different options, but that's not really for you to know as the business owner or the individual, right? You should be working with someone that can present these options to you that can help you. So that's why, again, it's all about hiring who you need to hire so that way they can help you.
Okay, so it's going to take a while before you actually go to jail. You got to
Yeah. You got to really be avoiding and at a high dollar amount.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to go to jail because you wrote off a little deduction.
What's a high dollar amount though?
It gotta be a couple million.
Okay, a couple
million.
All right.
I would say a couple million.
All right.
High 100,000.
Not 100,000.
No, I said maybe a couple 100,000.
Okay.
Like high 100,000.
Okay.
Right?
That
Because by that time you're in tax court. Most small businesses are not going to tax court with the IRS. The IRS is not taking you to court.
But the state, you said circle back to the state.
Okay,
they taking you to court?
No, they're not going to take you to court, but the state will seize your stuff way faster than the IRS. And most people are so focused on the IRS that they think that the state is something to play with, and they're not. If you owe the state, call them, get into a payment plan, figure out what options they have, because they will seize your bank account quick.
All the things.
Quick.
Okay, let's pivot this conversation because that's stressful.
This conversation is making Koereyelle very, very uncomfortable.
Very stressful. But your girl ain't with the millions, and I don't avoid my taxes. Let me also just say that your girl pays, okay? But the stories that I've heard is just like you thinking you pay.
Especially when you're working. What I really feel bad about is when someone think that they're doing the right thing because they've been working with a specific individual, and then it's a situation.
And that person wasn't doing the right thing.
They wasn't doing the right thing, and that's bad because guess what? Again, the IRS does not care.
They don't care.
You cannot say, oh, well, such and such told me that they paid it. They're going to be like, all right, well, we didn't receive the payment. If you could send confirmation that you sent that payment in, then we'll notate it. If not, then we want our money. Yeah, and then it's so bad. Like, I've seen someone lose their business because they had to just dissolve their business because they couldn't pay. So...
Well, I want to pivot, but this pivot ain't going to be much better. So let's just go on and get through it because the recession is another stressful.
Recession.
Well, it could be a stressful conversation.
So
help us out.
I don't think
What
recession
should we be focused on? Because I know mindset is everything in these situations. Because somebody's going to get rich off this recession.
Absolutely, we all are going to get rich off this off this conversation. So for me, how I look, first, I missed the last recession.
We was too young to catch that last
young,
recession.
and during the last recession, again, I was looking at headlines. But again, I was very young. But at the same time, we're looking at headlines. We're looking at things that say, oh, my God, we're in a recession.
What the media
Yeah, I got my grandma like, oh, my God, girl, we're in a recession. But nobody is saying what a recession really means. Mm-hmm. Recession is once we kind of hit those 2 consecutive quarters of being down, guess what's happening? Stock prices are down. Home prices are down. I do feel like, and we'll talk about on the business side, what business owners need to consider. But I think this is like perfect. Like, I'm excited. It's game time for me. I said, you know what? I'm a lifestyle girl. I like to be outside. I like to eat, and I like to shop. I like to do all this stuff. I'm like, I'm going to kind of slow down. I'm going to slow down, and I'm going to take all my money, and I'm going to invest it. Because I truly feel if I take time over the next 2 to 3 years to just invest, I feel like I'll be set for life. Because think about all the people who we're looking at now who's like, yeah, I purchased that home in 2008. I purchased this home, and no, I'm going to be that person 10 years from now. Nope, I purchased this home in 2022 during a recession, right? So I want to be that person. And so I think that we just have to change our mindset more so from an investing standpoint. Then we'll talk about business. But from an investing standpoint, it's time to eat. It's time to invest. It's time to take advantage. Yes. Save your money. Don't go out. Even if you don't have money saved, find some money. Figure out OPM, other people's money, because guess what? Banks still have quotas. They still need to lend this money out. You need to learn how to position yourself, so that way you can get capital. Girl, I'm not playing. Lines of credit, line it up.
I'm not playing.
I'm not playing. I need lines of credit. Like when you guys hear people say, oh, I bought this house all cash. They're not buying it all cash. They're buying it with lines of credit.
Somebody else's cash.
Someone else's cash. So when you guys are watching all these TV shows
and they're like $5 million cash, I wonder, like, where you got dollar bills?
It's not their money. They are getting lines of credit, and then they'll pull all the money from the line of credit, pay for the home, and guess what that does? That makes them more favorable. They're gonna close quicker. They're gonna have the investment, and 9 times out of 10, the interest rate is gonna be way lower on a line of credit than it is going to be on, let's say, hard money, right? And so we just have to become more creative and open our minds to just really understand how we're going to get to the bag. Now, on the business side, this is my first recession as a business owner. So I'm looking at all the bigger companies. What are they doing? Girl, I seen they firing everybody. I'm looking around in my office like, should I start firing people? Because, listen, I'm not trying to recreate the wheel.
Yeah.
What are y'all doing? Y'all firing people? I'm going to follow the blueprint, but I ain't firing nobody in my office yet.
I'm about to say, they going to watch this girl. They going to be scared.
No. I told them. I said, look, the big company is firing. I ain't going to fire y'all. But these are things that we have to take into consideration and not ignore. We see bigger companies tightening up. So we have to tighten up. They're going to be cutting. Like I was told, I was going to take my team, if we met our goal, I was going to take my team to Tulum last year. They missed the goal. So I said, okay, we didn't do it last year. We may do it this year. They may not be going next year because, listen, we may have to save that money, So we have to look at bigger companies and see what they're doing, because the reality is if they're cutting back, you don't keep spending. They are doing these things for a reason. If they can do it at a corporate level, as a small business, you have to be paying attention to those things. And so for me, I'm cutting back certain things. Do we absolutely need it? Don't order a piece of paper, no ink, no pen, no nothing. Because usually I'm like, oh, we need this. Let's order it. Let's pay. Nope, we are not doing that. So I just think that there's
time to get tight.
Yeah, it's two different spectrums that we have to look at it. But I definitely don't think that the recession is a negative thing. I think that we are going to have to work a little harder. I do think money was just floating around in the air for the past 2 years.
Girl, 2020 was...
2020 was a time.
We had a time last night, baby. 2020 was... What a time
2020 was great, right? And so a lot of people started their business, of course, like sitting home, watching, social media, having that time to really sit down and isolate themselves and really start their business. Because otherwise they would have been at work, busy, didn't have time. But the money came easy. The people were all congregating on social media. Now it's a little different. You're going to really have to operate this like a business in order to get this money. So that's it. We gonna get through this.
We gonna get through it, baby. Okay, that did make me feel better. I hope y'all are coming together, touch and agree. We getting rich in this recession. Yeah. Get a little tight right now. So
money not changing.
A little later.
It's just changing hands.
And
it's just changing hands. Where's the money?
Hands.
Where's the money going?
Over here. Okay. So I know that you have some books. Yes. You got to tell the people how are you taking, tell the people how they can work with you, get your books, all of the things.
Yes. So you guys can follow me on social media. So all social platforms, Miss Business 101. So that's ms.business.
And the other one's scamming. You got to tell them.
Yeah, I have a lot of fake pages. I have 122,000 followers. So
I thought you was going to say 100 fake pages. Okay.
Girls probably, but listen. One of my fake pages have 30,000 followers, and I'm offended because I worked hard for my first 30,000 followers. So I don't understand how they get to just come in and just do that. But anyway, find me. Hopefully by the time you guys see this episode, I'll be verified or something.
Yes.
But on Instagram, all social platforms, Miss Business 101, we are accepting new clients. Click the link in my bio. Just make sure that you guys schedule that consultation. I would like to talk to you all before the year is over, right? Because a lot of business owners like to wait until January through April.
Hey, y'all be
but
busy.
Yeah, not even that we're busy, but as a business owner, you can't talk to me only January through April. That's for employees. That's for somebody who money has already been taken out. We have to have this conversation. What do you need to do? How do you need to prepare? Right? So click the link, schedule your appointment. It's a free consultation. My team will answer all of your questions in regards to what you need to do, talk about our process, make sure it's a good fit. So that's how, you can work with me. But we also do tax preparation, business formation, tax planning, payroll. So I've really built my company, Brooks Alliance, to be a full service financial company, right? Because you don't want to have to go to me for bookkeeping, somebody else for taxes, somebody else for business formation, because there's a disconnect. So we want everything to be under one company, so that way we can do what we're best at, so you can go do what you're best at, right? And then my book. So I have a book that I wrote 3 years ago, which is 300 plus tax deductions, and everyone still loves this book to this day, because the number one question I'm always asked every day is, what can I write off? So, girl, I sat down a couple years ago, because them DMs, they become repetitive. What can I write off? I'm like, you know what? Buy the book. So I wrote 300 plus tax deductions, and I actually just released a book, the Tax Playbook. And I wrote the Tax Playbook, which is more so like a guide to help entrepreneurs really prepare to file taxes. There's so many different factors that come into play, but it's not hard. It's just that you don't know the terms, you don't know the strategy. So I also put like some tax planning strategies in there. So like, what exactly should you be doing when you're meeting with these people for tax planning? Because some people are like, oh, I never talked to my accountant until like January. I'm like, that's a problem. Like, you can't do anything after January, right? So I put some tax planning strategies in there, who you need to hire that's going to help you from a tax perspective, certain plays. So it's a tax playbook. So I kind of correlated it from like a mindset perspective to football. So it's like a lot of principles that they follow in football we need to implement as a business. My favorite one is that the coach never enters the game. And that is a good one, because a lot of times as a business owner, you want to be in the game. A coach is never going to take their shirt off or put on the football players, the quarterback's jersey, and say, you know what, now I'm going to do your job. No, he's going to coach from the sidelines. And so that was, I really love my mindset part of the book, because I really went in, I'm like, correlating it to football, but that's so important. And I think that we don't think about that. We're always consistently trying to figure out, like, how can I hop in to help this situation, when the reality is you're hurt in the situation because you're keeping yourself in the business. So those are my books.
Yes, link in your bio.
Link in my bio.
MissBusiness101.com.
MissBusiness101.com. Oh, thank you. See, I forgot to tell you the website.
It, baby. Another game-changing conversation that's going to keep your ass out of jail, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Girl Stop Playing Podcast. Share this episode with a friend so y'all all can stay outside.
Girl, hey, I hope you enjoyed that video. This channel is all about encouraging you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you'll be notified when the next video drops. And comment below and let me know what you want to see on the next video. Peace out.